In the 1920s, the most two iconic fashionable wear was the cloche dress, the cloche hat, sorry, um, the flapper dress, and those two were the most things that the women used to wear back in the day. That's why they're called iconic fashionable wear. Um, the cloche hat was probably worn when they went out and it was probably cold outside. I'm just guessing. I really don't know because I wasn't there. Um, the cloche hat always came like over their hair, and the women's hair was always kept short. Um, it was either shoulder length or shorter. Um, it always covered most of their hair. They wore it probably when they went out or when they wore it with. They always wore it with their flapper dress. Their flapper dress was probably called back in the day party dress. It was probably the cost for that was $7 to $12 back then. Um, Now it's like I think it's 100 and something. I think it's right way up there. I was looking, but I can't really remember. Um, Most of their dresses was calf length. If they just wore a skirt, it was calf length as well. Their everyday dress was 5 to 10, so it was cheaper than the. Well, to them it was cheaper than the flapper dress because nowadays we think, wow, that's really cheap, but to them it was probably like, wow, that's really expensive. So a lot of things have changed. I personally really love this time period, mainly because their clothing styles was just so elegant and so modest, and even the men's, like, they just always dressed in suits. They always dressed so nice, like anywhere that they was going. I mean, they had casual wear. They did, but it was mainly like nice casual wear. It wasn't like just like a t-shirt or like shorts or something, or like jeans. I mean, they had like their casual wear was nice and it was elegant and it was just so formal fitted that we thought that it was formal, but to them back in the day, probably they're like, well, this is my casual wear. Like, this is what I just wear on a daily basis. This is what I wear to work. Um, the men's suits, they always wore them out, but they had like a nicer suit that was like I think that's like a 3-piece suit was like $9 to $22, and that was what they wore to like parties. And what women, like, they would wear their flapper dress and the men would wear their 3-piece suit, because back then they would just get a coat and then like a vest, and they'd just put that on and they'd go to work. And then when they'd go out, they'd wear the 3-piece suit, and the girls would wear their flapper dress. And most of the men probably wore flannels too. Their flannels is still back into this time period. I like flannels. I wear flannels. I know that everybody has that hashtag Flannel Friday. I do the hashtag Flannel Friday. I really like my flannels, but I like my flannels long and I like my flannels big. In the 1920s, I think most of the men wore the flannels just as casual wear. I can't remember how much it costed. I don't think it said. And then most of the time, the men wore their two-tone shoes. Their two-tone shoes didn't say how much they costed. They had black and tan, and black and white. And then for the teens, they either wore a cardigan sweater, and that costed to $1.50 or to $2. They wore their canvas shoes or sandals. It was more like comfortable than what the older people would wear. The rompers are back in style. They wore dresses, which was calf length, and the boys, they usually wore like cardigans too. They didn't really wear they wore much as what the girls would wear.